has there been any surprises along the way? I mean, things that you just like weren't prepared for, and you got down to Mexico, and then wow.
I mean, of course, the thing for most people is probably budget. Um, and I did some calculations when we were still in California, and I figured we could live here on about 40% of what it took us to live in California, and it was actually a little bit less than that.
All right, so today I am heading down to the beautiful country of Mexico with my two new friends, Mark and Paulette. Hey, Mark, Paulette, how you doing?
Good. How
Great.
are you?
Hey, it's good to have you guys. I found your YouTube channel, which is very cool. It's the Two Travelers in Mexico. And you guys have been doing that for quite a while now, right?
Yeah, coming up on 5 years.
Okay, so have you been living in Mexico for 5 years?
Almost.
Almost, yeah.
Okay, so give the viewers a little bit of backstory about you, where you're from, and how you landed in Mexico, and what prompted you to leave the U.S.
I'll
So
chime in.
we were we were living in Sacramento, California, um, and California is a pretty expensive state to live in. Um, and I didn't really want to work till I was like 70 to be able to afford to retire in California. So we made the decision that we were going to retire and move out of the country somewhere. And so we looked at several different places, Spain, Portugal. We went to Ecuador twice, as well as we did a lot of research on YouTube about some other countries like, you know, uh, Uruguay, Paraguay, and some places like that. And we actually visited, Spain, Portugal, and Ecuador.
Oh, wow.
Um, and we love those countries, but in the end, if there was some family emergency that we had to come back to the U.S., it would just take too long to do that.
Mm.
Um, and so in 2018, we came and checked out Mexico and just absolutely fell in love with the country. And so at that point, we made the decision that it was going to be Mexico for sure.
What area of Mexico did you first land in, where you said, "Wow, this is pretty impressive. We like it."
Well, when we came to visit in 2018, we stayed in Guanajuato,
Mhm.
but then we visited some other cities from there,
Querétaro.
Querétaro,
Mhm.
um, San Miguel for a day, Dolores Hidalgo, and places like that. Um,
We came here for a month
yeah,
to check it out.
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay.
And so, and then from there, we knew at that point that Mexico was going to be. And so then we just had to choose a city as a starting point.
Mhm.
And so we actually chose Morelia
The state of
as our
Mexico.
starting point. And we always knew that we would move on from there. It was just a place to start out. But we were there for 1 year.
Okay. And so what was it? Was there any particular thing that just kind of occurred to you when you were down there where you just said, "This is it. This is where we're going to be"? Was there any moment, or was there a town or an experience in Mexico that just said, "Wow, this place is really cool. This is where we want to be"?
I would say it was just the overall experience, the people, the culture, the architecture. Um, it was all just, amazing
Hmm.
to us. And so, and the muy tranquilo lifestyle, as opposed to the push in the United States and California to, you know, work more, make more money, buy bigger, expensive things. That just, for the most part, doesn't really exist down here. People just living a tranquil lifestyle.
It's more of a peaceful lifestyle. Yeah, that's very true. So, of the cities that you visited and explored, How many would you say you visited and explored, and did do any of them, which one stood out as like, wow, you
Okay.
it was like one like something that you never even knew existed. I hear, I've never been to San Miguel. I've seen the pictures. It's really a gorgeous town. Guanajuato is very similar, I think, in beauty as well. But in any of these, anything stand out in any of these cities for you guys?
I would say the city of Puebla really
Oh,
stood out.
Puebla. Mhm.
Um, it was beautiful. It was, and Puebla has a lot of the Spanish slash French architecture there because the French occupied that city for, you know, several decades. And that's actually what the celebration of Cinco de Mayo is actually the Mexicans revolting against the French in Puebla to kick them out. But for me, I think Durango was a really nice city. I like that a lot. I was kind of surprised, in fact, at just how much I liked it.
Mhm.
Um, Mexico City is always amazing. I mean, there's always stuff going on there. There's a huge, it's a huge city. There's 24/7. There's always something to do there.
Yeah. Yeah, that has become the city to move to, especially
Yeah.
for young people. It's almost like the new New York City in the 80s, early 90s. It's just cafes, it's just got museums,
Mhm.
galleries, hot spots, but just
Hmm.
you can walk pretty much, you know, i- anywhere and you within your neighborhood and access, taquerias and little pubs and bars and um, I just hear so many great things. Everybody that's been to Mexico City just falls in love with it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
We we stayed in Roma Norte. Um, we stayed in the central part of it. We walked through Coyoacan and places like that. It's really beautiful. And I will say that if you don't have a car there, that's not really an issue. In fact, you're
Mhm.
probably better off not having a car because, the traffic is a nightmare for one, but the mass transit there is really good.
Hmm.
And when you get old like us, it's for free, the metro,
Yeah.
the train and the buses. Mhm.
That's so there's incentives over there.
There
You guys
is.
Yeah.
are old. You guys are like in your prime.
Well, thank you for saying that.
So, okay, so you guys tell us a little bit about the town you selected. So San Luis Potosi. I never heard of it until you told me about it, and I think that that's awesome. I love that because you guys have found a place that not many people talk about, and
That's
probably
right.
Mhm.
not many expats live there. You are in the
No.
dead center of Mexico. So how did you find this place? And tell us a little bit about that town.
Well, we found it kind of by accident. We were living in Morelia at the time. Our rental lease was almost up, and we were heading back to the United States to pick up some more stuff and bring it back. And we happened to drive through San Luis and spend the night here. And it left such an impression on us that we thought, we got to come back and check this out a little bit longer. So on our way back, we stopped and
Mhm.
stayed for a few days. And at that point, we knew that our lease was ending, and so San Luis really just stuck out as our next place to go.
Mhm.
It's just a beautiful city, especially central historical and
Mhm.
and that. It's a city of probably about 900,000. Got a lot of the modern conveniences that we appreciate, um, and it's also not what they would call an expat landing spot or expat haven, which was part of the draw for us.
Mhm.
We wanted to be a little more immersed in the culture. And
Yeah.
so we came here and just really fell more in love with the city. And after about 6 months of being here, we decided to go ahead and buy a house.
Mhm. Oh, wow.
And so we did that.
You guys bought. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So today I'd like to thank our sponsor, Traveling Mailbox. Are you ready to move abroad? Keep a real U.S. address without the hassle? With Traveling Mailbox, you can set up a virtual address that works just like a physical one. No more relying on friends or family to send your mail weeks later. Get your mail scanned instantly, manage it online, and forward it anywhere in the world. Enjoy total freedom and stay connected to the U.S. with Traveling Mailbox where you are. To sign up, click the link in the description, or you can scan the QR code above on the screen. I'm guessing, I don't know, correct me if I'm wrong, that when you choose a place like San Luis Potosí, then you're not going to see or hear a lot of English speaking, and you're going to really have to know how to speak Spanish. Would you say, is that
Yeah,
accurate?
I mean, we're still not as good as we should be, but there's something to be said for immersion for sure,
Hmm.
both in terms of the culture and the ability to speak Spanish. Because once you master the ability to speak Spanish, you'll understand more about the cultural nuances and really help understand the beauty of the culture more.
You know,
Yeah.
that really is a lot of fun. So would you say for the retirees and expats that are exploring Mexico as an option in this area, the central area of Mexico, they would definitely need to brush up on their Spanish then?
And yeah, in most places, not so much in like San Miguel as an example, because it's a much smaller city with a much larger expat, English speaking expat
I think
population there.
coastal areas too,
Coastal areas, yeah.
touristy areas like Cancun and, when you get closer to the ocean, that's more of a tourist destination. So there's going to be a lot of English, I think, that are going to be,
Mhm.
that's going to be spoken there.
The interesting thing about the coastal community is when we visit there, we run into a lot of Canadians on the
Yeah.
coast, more so than anywhere else, I
Mhm.
think.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting. There's an exodus of Canadians leaving, but it's interesting. I was looking at the average cost of a 3-bedroom home in that Ontario Toronto region now, and it's the average cost is 1.1 million.
Wow.
Wow.
So it's just really blown up in the
Wow.
last 25 years, and it's become like a New York City world. Vancouver's the same way. So there's a lot of Canadians that are gone. We need to figure out a place where we can go and stretch our income because it's so expensive here now too. And
Hmm.
people are looking to leave. So
The thing about the snowbirds, or Canadians, is that, they want to get out of the cold. So a lot of them will spend 6 months here and then go back.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
And then there's also a thing with Canadian health insurance is you have to go back every once in a while to keep
I
it
think it's every,
instated.
I think it's every 6 months or
Yeah.
something.
Hmm. So, of the time that you guys spent down there in the past 5 years, you've been around, you finally bought a place. I'm interested in knowing what the cost of real estate is in that particular area. We'll get into rentals and the cost in a minute. But has there been any surprises along the way? I mean, things that you just like weren't prepared for, and you got down to Mexico, and then wow, something happened, or these things, any big surprises or
I mean, of course, the thing for most people is probably budget. Um, and I did some calculations when we were still in California, and I figured we could live here on about 40% of what it took us to live in California, and it was actually a little bit less than that. When we first came down here, it was actually probably closer to like 35% of what it takes to was taking us to live in California. So um, the budget went a little bit farther than I thought it was going to go, which is always a good thing.
Mhm.
Um, and then the other thing I would just say is the friendliness of the people here. I mean, we walk by, people on the street, strangers, and they'll say "Buen dia," "Buenas noches," just as a normal greeting.
Hmm.
And so we've learned to kind of do that too. Whereas in the US, that doesn't really happen.
Yeah, not much anymore. It's changed a lot, the US. But my so if you mentioned that you're living at on a 40% less budget than what you would pay in California.
Mhm.
Well, we're living on about 40% of what it would take us to live in California.
Okay, so if you broke down in USD, how much can you live on in this particular part of Mexico?
Oh, I would say for a couple, um,
And again, it depends on your lifestyle.
yeah.
That contemplates a lot
Mhm.
of your cost spending. I mean, if you're eating out your meals a lot, I cook a lot, we eat at home a
Mhm.
lot, we eat out maybe 2 times a week, something like that with friends. Um, but again, if you're younger and you go to the bars and you're out with your
Yeah.
friends all the time, that cost is probably going to be a lot more.
So on our lifestyle, uh, of course, we don't have rent, but food we figured ran us, just going to the grocery store probably ran us about $600
Mhm.
a month. Eating out, we figure maybe another $200.
Yeah, maybe 200,
And then there's other incidentals, utilities and stuff like that. So
which is
for,
very cheap.
yeah.
And our property taxes is very cheap.
Oh, yeah. Um, we'll get to the property taxes in a minute, but I think for a couple, we could live here probably on what, 1,500 a month, pretty comfortably.
Yeah, like I said, it depends on the lifestyle. I mean,
Mhm.
I would say anywhere between 1,500 to 2,800. I mean, because there's people that eat out just about every meal,
Yeah.
Sure.
or go to the bar and have drinks, and that stuff adds
Or,
up after a while.
yeah.
Okay.
So,
Go
but
ahead.
I wanted to say one other thing. Our property taxes here are 70 US dollars a year.
70 a year.
US dollars. Yeah.
That's with our senior discount.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So how much did you get? What kind of house did you guys buy? Is it 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom?
Well, it's funny because it's a 3 bedroom plus a maid's quarter, which is really small, which effectively we just use as storage. But
Storage, that's our garage.
so it's a 3 bedroom, 5 bathroom house, which was more than we were looking for.
5 bath?
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
Wow.
crazy. There's 3 bedrooms and each bedroom has its own
bathroom.
bathroom. And then when you come into the house, there's a guest bathroom there. And around by the laundry area, there's a small maid's quarter and she has her own bathroom,
Right.
but we have no maid.
So like when you're looking at houses in Mexico, people are used to, in the US, like a 3 bedroom, 2 bathroom house.
Mhm.
That just doesn't happen here. It's going to be a 3 bedroom, 3 bathroom, or probably at least
Least,
a 3 bedroom, 4 bathroom house.
well, I think the least amount of bathrooms are 2.5,
Yeah.
too,
Hmm.
too high.
How much did you guys pay for that? How long ago did you buy?
3 years
A little
ago,
over three
and
years.
we spent what was it, about 157,000,
US.
yeah, US.
Okay.
And it was a new construction. It was sitting here because of COVID.
Hmm.
And it's in a community that's already established, that's been here for
Mhm.
probably 12 years. And there was 2 phases. Ours was the second phase. And I think there's even more phases going in today.
Come with any amenities or
Amenities
like
meaning,
a pool or
oh,
No.
no, no
no
pool.
Mm-mm.
jacuzzi or anything like that?
No, it came with it came with a rooftop patio, which was one of my things that I really wanted. And it
Nice.
came with an open concept kitchen, which is one of the things Paulette really wanted.
And we
But
looked at about 32 houses
yeah,
before we made the decision.
give you an idea, we figured it's about a 2,000 square foot house in living space by
It,
US standards.
it's probably bigger than what we actually need, but we do like to have people over and entertain and stuff like
Mhm.
that. So The bedrooms are all upstairs except for the maid's quarters. That's off the laundry room, downstairs off the kitchen. But it's that open concept downstairs, and we really like that. And like I said, all the bedrooms are upstairs.
No, it sounds beautiful. It sounds like you guys got a fantastic score.
And that's
Yeah.
another thing too, is when you do come to Mexico, you're like a 16-year-old teenager starting out. You have no
No
credit.
credit.
So, basically, if you're going to buy something, you're going to buy with cash.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, exactly. So when you guys looked at the other houses, what were the prices on the other places that you looked at? Anything like lower and 80, 70, 90?
No, not that low.
Well,
No?
yeah, there were a couple that were like 1.6 million pesos, which would at the time would have been about 90,000 US dollars. We paid, Paulette was saying 157,000 US dollars, which at the time was 3,150,000 pesos.
Okay.
But we did look at a range of prices. Most of the houses we saw were kind of right around in this range, around 3 million pesos, 150 or 60,000 US dollars.
I want to say something here too. The difference here on buying a house in Mexico versus, I can't speak for Canada, but in the US, there's really no year. Like if you buy a house in the US, you know when the house was built, like if the kitchen's been updated, if the electric has been updated, those things. Here, not so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you want something that is actually that Mexican style with the arches in the house and things like that, which I really wanted, chances are that you're going to have a lot of things redone because they can't tell you exactly how old the house is. And to redo things is basically a jackhammer to the house.
Yeah.
To have your electric done and whatever else that you're going to need. So we thought with that whole thing, for us, it was better to spend that same amount of money to buy something that was already new and ready to go.
Do you guys pay insurance on the houses down there?
No, you can get it. It's very rare that people do because the houses are basically, brick and mortar. So there's really, no drywall, no electrical things that are going to happen like that.
Yeah, I mean, if you have a fire in your house, it's the structure's still going to be there. It'll just be like rebuilding the interior. But you never see house fires here in Mexico. I mean,
you have like with propane tanks.
Yeah, I mean,
it's rare,
but
it can happen.
Okay. And so the only thing that you get after you paid for the home, you're only paying $70 a year for property tax.
Yeah.
And then you have your utilities, which you pay propane, electric, water. What do you break that down per year, or per month, would you say average?
Well, I would say for the propane, we have how big's the propane?
We have a 280 liter tank. We fill it about every 6 months at 1,600 pesos. So that's right around $90.
Okay.
Every 6 months.
Every 6 months.
Okay.
Our utility bill, lately it's been around 80 US dollars every 2 months.
Our garbage is free.
The utility bill is electric and water?
No, just electric.
Just electric, and how much is it a month?
Around 80 US dollars a month.
2 months.
It's gone up. Yeah, sorry, 2 months for $80 for 2 months.
We get our utility bill. It's called the CFE bill for electric, and that comes every 2 months.
Okay.
And it runs us, like Mark was
40
saying,
a month, which is pretty good. How much is water?
Water has been free.
Nice.
For the last 12 years for the whole community, but now they're putting in the water meters. And we went down a couple of months ago to see about getting a water meter, but they haven't installed it yet. So right now we're getting the bare minimum that they charge, which is about
250 pesos. So that's,
It's about
14, 15
yeah,
US
about,
dollars
and that's what, every month
every
or
2 months.
every 2 months.
Okay. Now, how about Wi-Fi and cell down there? What do you guys pay for that?
We'll start with cell service first. We have AT&T here. We pay 3,100 pesos a year each. So that's like 100 and probably 70 US dollars each a year.
Okay, so 170 for the entire year for
Uh-huh.
for one of you.
For one.
Yeah. But something about the cellular plans here is there is really no such thing as unlimited data. I mean, our plan is like 5 gigs a month of data. So, and you asked about internet. There's fiber optic available in a city, but it's not available where we're at. So I have Starlink internet,
Ah,
which is about 1,100 pesos a month,
It's about $65.
65, so yeah, US dollars a month.
But we need it for the YouTube channel.
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. Any other fees or payments that you guys?
No, I think that's pretty much
Yeah,
it as far
That's
as
pretty much it.
the
But,
utilities.
remember here in Mexico, in a lot of homes, there is no central heat and air.
Yeah.
I
Well,
mean,
that's
you can have those split units put in.
yeah.
Some of our friends have done that. We basically had, when we bought the house, we had fans installed. Like we have 3 fans downstairs, a fan upstairs, and like a TV room area.
Mhm.
And then we have them in each of the bedrooms.
Okay.
Yeah.
What is the weather year around there like?
Nice.
Nice. It was hotter this year, but during the hottest parts of the year, it's typically high 80s, low 90s.
Okay.
Uh, During the coolest parts of the year, it can get down into the 40s, like mid 40s or so. But I mean, we're talking right now, it's July. It's actually a little bit cooler because it's the rainy season here.
hmm when it's like 80s, 90s during the day, what does it drop down to typically at night?
Oh, probably,
70,
yeah, 70. Yeah.
Okay.
maybe 68.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So even in the hot time of the year, it's a comfortable sleeping weather in the evening.
Yeah.
Right.
For the most part. I mean, there
Yeah.
are, like, like Mark was saying, May was just extremely hot this year. I mean, extremely. And it really never cooled down too much in the night.
San Luis Potosí, this is actually considered high desert here. So it's a semi-arid climate.
Okay.
We have the mountains.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's not humid there.
It's rarely humid here, not like you're
Yeah.
gonna get down by the oceans.
Okay. And then that's the other question. So in the center of Mexico, do you miss the beach? Because so many people go to Mexico for the beaches. And then if you do go to the beach, how do you get there and how long does it take?
You can fly.
Yeah, you can fly, or we very often will take the bus. By bus, it's probably 10 or 12 hours if we're going to like Puerto Vallarta or Mazatlan or something, but we'll break it up. We'll ride the bus from
It's
here
like
to
5 hours to about Mexico City, 5 or 6 hours from here to Mexico City, from here to Guadalajara. Then we'll just stay the night, have dinner, relax, and then take the bus the next day, the rest of
to the coast.
the
Yeah.
way to the coast.
Okay. All right. So if you definitely decide to live where you guys are at, then it's typically they're people that really don't really care much for the beach, I would guess.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. But I think most people that retire, I mean, that was my thought too. That was my whole process when we were going to retire. I thought, oh, we'll live in a community over by the beach and, blah, blah, blah. But man, it's hot and it's humid, and we don't like the hot and the humid. To
Yeah.
visit is one thing, to live there 24/7 is another.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point. All right, well, let's jump into I got about the visa. So
Okay.
things changed in 2024 in
Uh-huh.
Mexico where the minimum income requirement increased dramatically.
Yeah.
to live there. And so I know that's like the minimum income requirement for a retiree or somebody that's even a digital nomad, which doesn't even make sense to me, is like $4,300 that they have to show per month.
And that's net.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you guys your thoughts. You've been there for 5 years. It seems to me like they're putting the brakes on people moving to Mexico based on that move because I mean, you look at places all over the world in Asia and Europe. I mean, Mexico now is one of the costliest places to try to qualify to live there. What are your thoughts on that change? And do you think they're gonna sustain and keep that, or you think there'll be an adjustment in the law?
It's been going up by 15 or 20% a year because the minimum requirements are based on the Mexican minimum wage, the
Hmm.
Mexican daily minimum wage. And so if that increases by 20%, like it's been doing for the last few years, then the cost of, then the qualifications for the visa go up also by that percentage too.
Hmm.
Um, as an example, I think when we first came here on our through our temporary residency was about $2,500 a
I
month.
think it was about 2,500 a month.
And now it's, I mean, you're saying 4,300 a month. Some of the research I did said 4,700 a month.
Hmm.
Um, but a lot of that depends on the consulate in the US too. And that's why so many people consulate shop
Right.
uh, to try to qualify because you have to start the process somewhere outside of Mexico.
Hmm.
And then you come into Mexico and finish the
Right.
process.
Yeah. So I'm
Yeah.
wondering if there's any type of loophole where people can still come in, stay for 6 months, do a border run, and then come back. What's
I
your
think if
thoughts on
you
that?
can,
So we know some people that have taken advantage of this. If you outstay your visa by a day, you can apply for the regularization program, which does not have you don't really have to financially qualify for that. Um, and if they accept you into the regularization program, you get a temporary visa, a temporary residency
residency.
permit that lasts for 4 years, and then like the all of the other things as far as residency goes, after 4 years of temporary, you go into the I&M office and roll right into permanent residency. So
Mhm.
that's one way of getting around a financial requirement.
Right. You just don't want to let it expire. So maybe about a month before it's going to expire, you need to go into the,
That, but that's for when you're rolling from temporary to permanent visa. The regularization program, you have to let your visa expire by at least a day, and then you go into I&M
And
and
that
start that process.
interesting. So if I go there for on a tourist visa, I'm staying for say I got a 30-day tourist visa, and you're saying after 30 days, and I say I outlast that tourist visa, I stay 32 days. Then
Uh-huh.
there's a way that you can enter this program.
Yeah.
What is it called again?
Regularization.
Regularization.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that is fascinating. Very
Yeah.
fascinating. Yeah, because
Um,
I think what happens too is and I get it. I mean, there is a movement now of people leaving countries all over the globe and moving to different destinations. There's just this massive movement now. And there's a lot of young people, much younger than us,
yep.
digital nomads that are working online. They got gigs, they're making 1,500, 2,000 a month through their computers. And they're like going, I'm going to go live in these places all over the world.
Yeah.
And they're
yeah.
having the time of their life. It's pretty awesome. But I do believe, and I've seen that these in certain countries, the it's gotten stricter as far as how to qualify as a resident there. But I do believe that if you go to some of these countries, there are different ways that you can learn and figure out when
Mhm.
you're there.
I mean, that's been the interesting thing. I think COVID taught both people and businesses that they don't necessarily need to maintain a brick and mortar office for people to come into work to when they can work from home. And so that saves them money in leasing office space and things like that too.
Hmm. Yeah, very true. Well,
And a
the
lot of companies are pretty good on letting their employees move abroad. Some
Hmm.
aren't, but a lot of them are.
it's a growing thing. It's a really growing demographic of people, and I think it's terrific because if you think, I mean, the cost of one bedrooms around the U.S. now, even in smaller towns, are 1200 $1,500 a month.
Hmm.
So if a digital nomad, a young person is just starting out and they got a gig where they're getting paid $1,500 a month, and they can go to Brazil and have their own pad where they walk 2 blocks and they're on the beach and they're paying 300 a month for that apartment.
Hmm.
It's their own place. It's a no-brainer for a lot of these young people. They're
Yeah,
like going, I'm gonna get, there's so many amazing places
right.
to do that in.
Even in Mexico, like my neighbors up the street have a house for rent, 13,000 pesos. It's like a 3 bedroom, 4 bath
No,
house.
no, 2.5 bath.
Oh, 3 bedroom, 2.5 bath house.
Mhm.
13,000 pesos. That's maybe 750 US dollars a month. And that's for a
Unfurnished.
house,
Mhm.
unfurnished.
Yeah.
Um, we've known people have rented an apartment here anywhere from 200 to right around $500 a
Like
month.
Mike, he's paying 500 a month,
Yeah,
but I think he has to pay his own utilities or something, which
yeah.
still figures $600 a month to live, and that's a two
Hmm.
bedroom, 2 bath,
I mean,
no
So
300,
parking.
$300 or $400 in the US, that might get you like one room in a house and a shared
yeah,
kitchen.
yeah, with exactly living with 5 other people,
Yeah.
Mhm.
you know. So the rentals, what you'd say would start at around 200 over there per month?
Uh,
I think
I,
that's,
yeah, a little bit low. We know one guy who rented a place for about 250 a month,
Okay.
and it was shared.
and it was shared.
It was
Yeah,
shared with 2 other people,
yeah,
Okay.
and it was furnished.
yeah,
Yeah.
But I would say the average depends, I mean, throughout Mexico, it might vary where we're at. It's probably, I'd say about 600 a month for a furnished
Hmm.
yeah.
2 or 3 bedroom unit.
How about a one bedroom?
Uh, you could probably find something for, I'm guessing, around
Yeah.
400 US.
Yeah. Okay, great. All right. Well, the last thing I cover is healthcare. What do you guys do? What do people do, retirees, for healthcare? And what are the cost of healthcare plans?
They do a variety of things.
Hmm.
You can buy into the government insurance. What is that called? IMSS.
EAMS, IMSS.
Yeah, IMSS, which is the government program, which we did at first. And that goes kind of by age, what you pay. You have to do a physical, you have to do blood work, things
Mhm.
like that. And then you pay up front. And if for whatever reason, they can still deny you after you've paid and you don't get your money back
Right.
for foreigners, anyhow.
Wow.
Well,
So we did that for a couple of years.
yeah.
Then we decided to go to private insurance. And the private insurance that we had basically only covered accidental for emergency visits.
Okay.
That didn't work out real well either. So I think when we had the government one, I think we were paying about what, 250 a year maybe each or
Each.
something.
Yeah.
Yeah, about $250 each a year. And then when we went to the private, that ran us about 4,800 a year for both of us. But
Okay.
again, that was only if there was an emergency, you had to be rushed to the hospital, you broke a limb, something to that effect, your appendix, something.
But
Um,
even with that, you had to pay out of pocket first and hope to get reimbursed.
right.
Expensive in Mexico, 4,800 a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then right now, we're winging it. We don't
Wow.
have any insurance right now.
Well, we do have that one.
Well,
paid
we have a
$400.
traveler's insurance right
Yeah.
now.
So what would you guys do if something happened? I mean, would you go back to the US to get
No, you would
No.
have to, you would basically, the thing is here in Mexico, like you don't check out of the hospital until your bill is paid. Okay.
Yeah.
You can pay with a credit card. That's not an issue.
Mhm.
But, I mean, we know of a few people that have had no insurance. One was a subscriber of us that came here and broke his back.
Mhm.
So he wasn't leaving Mexico.
Mhm.
And his surgery with everything in a few days in the hospital was, I think, around maybe $5,500
Right.
Mhm.
US out of pocket. And he used his card to pay for that.
And that was pretty extensive surgery, a rod in his back and everything.
So that would cost, probably 100,000 in the US.
Well,
Yeah.
Actually, a friend of mine just sent me a copy of her bill. Her husband just had back surgery, and it was $107,000 for that procedure in the US.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna change. Okay, so that's good. We got that down. I got a question about, are you guys collecting Social Security?
Yes. We
Okay.
collected early. You lose out, I think you lose like 30% or something if you decide to collect out or collect early. But we decided to do that. And Mark figured out if you do collect early, you make up for it within so many years anyhow.
Yeah. I mean, I did the math on it, collecting at 62 versus waiting until like 66 years and 10 months. It would take me 11 years to make up the difference in what I didn't collect from 62 to 66 in 10 months. So
Mhm.
if I waited till I was 66 years and 10 months, I would be 78 before, I made up the difference in what I didn't collect from 62 to 66 years and 10 months.
Yeah.
And again, that
So-
was fine with us because again, the cost of living is so much cheaper here in
Yeah.
Mexico. So
Yeah.
that really wasn't a problem.
Well, help the viewers, especially the retirees. How do you do that? I mean, did you guys set up, do you have a bank account in Mexico where it's directly deposited, or did you make
No,
a bank
Well,
account in the US? And do you still have an address in the US? And how do you do that?
So we do have an address in the US. It's a P.O. box number, basically, in South Dakota.
Okay.
And yeah, we were living in California, but South Dakota, it was better for us to claim residency there before we moved to Mexico because they don't have a state income tax.
Right.
And vehicle registration was like $50 or $60 there a year compared to $250. So we got a residency in South Dakota just by staying there for one night.
Yep.
we checked out all kinds of different
Yeah.
places where to get residency, and
Yeah.
some of them you had to be there for 30 days and show your
A utility
a
bill in your
utility
name.
bill, things like that. South Dakota was pretty easy. You just had to show that you stayed the night at a hotel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if that's changed because I know there's like 9 states that you don't pay state income tax, and many of them now are doing the virtual mailbox service. A lot of people go through Texas where they set up a mail or an address and it's virtual, and anything that's sent there, they can open it, send it to you. It
Right.
costs a little bit more,
Yeah.
you know how
It's-
that works. But they
that's the
have
same service.
residency in Texas, so they don't have to pay the state tax.
Yeah. That's the same service we have in South Dakota too. Our mail comes into a mailbox. They scan the outside of it, and then I can look at it online to see if I want them to open it up and scan the inside or, get rid of it or
And
whatever the case
there's a
may be.
yearly fee for that, and there's
Yeah.
scanning fees too.
Okay, so that you guys have a bank in California or South
We have
Dakota?
a
South Dakota.
South Dakota, and then we also have a
We also-
Mexican bank
We also
here.
have a bank here. In addition, we also have Charles Schwab.
That's how we usually take out our money from the ATM machines, because Charles Schwab's real good about reimbursing you at the end of the month for
Exactly.
those
They don't,
fees.
they don't charge any ATM fees. That's a tip for many people.
Yeah, no foreign transaction fees.
So,
And then
so,
we
so,
also have Wise, which we use to wire money a lot.
yeah. So explain, because I'm confused with this a little bit. So when the money is directly deposited into your account, does it go into the account in the US and then you guys just use
Yes.
your debit cards to access?
Yeah, let me explain how we do that. So our Social Security checks goes into our South Dakota bank.
Okay.
From my South Dakota bank, I have set up with that bank my Charles Schwab. So what I can do is I can transfer money into my Charles Schwab, and
Hmm.
then from there, I use my Charles Schwab card to go to the ATM machine.
I see.
Uh, and then we used Wise when we want to have money deposited into our Mexican bank
Hmm.
account. And
Hmm.
then we could use our card on making purchases that way too.
Yeah.
Is there anything else? That's everything, you guys. Is there anything else that you can think of that you'd like to share with the viewers that may be interested in moving or retiring to Mexico?
If you can swing it, do it sooner than later because, the minimum qualifications are going up. Even if you can, as an example, get your temporary residency here in Mexico, even if you still have another year or two to work, get your temporary residency now. And then you can go back, you just have to be here for a couple of weeks or whatever to complete the process.
But I think with that, you have to qualify with financials, not your
Right,
monthly income. So you have to
right,
have the money. You have to financially have money in your savings or IRA or whatever investments to qualify that way. And then with your temporary, you do not have to actually stay in Mexico for those 4 years. You can go back and forth. You can just stay
hmm,
wherever you want to stay in Canada or the US or whatever. You just need to come back before that expiration day and then put in to go
hmm,
for permanent residency.
yeah,
Once you're permanent residency and you've been approved, which is pretty easy, it usually just happens. Once that happens, you can go and come, you can stay out of the country for 5 or
years.
10 years, whatever, it doesn't make any difference.
Hmm.
All right. Well, great information. Well, Marc and Paulette, thank you so much for being a part of the podcast today and sharing all these wonderful, helpful tips.
Yeah,
Make
no
sure that,
problem.
yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody checks out the Two Travelers in Mexico. That's their podcast. It's a great podcast or YouTube channel.
YouTube.
Yep, check that out. But thanks again, you guys, for doing this. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you
Yeah,
for
thank
having us,
you.
Ray. We appreciate that too.